Silas, let's start with the origins of Divergent. What sparked the idea for Divergent? Tell us the backstory. What made you think of getting into the research space, especially here in Nairobi? Why the name Divergent? And tell us why that represents the work that you do.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Divergent story starts from when I was working in one of the research companies, because I'm a seasoned researcher with 18 years experience, and having been through different research institutions and also working with different clients who appreciate research, Divergent became an idea that I couldn't hold back anymore. So at some point, I knew I was going to actually set up a consultancy, because when you are in an ecosystem whereby you have passion for what you do, you identify gaps and how things can be done differently.
Yes.
And also you identify opportunities even for new emerging trends in the market that you would want to explore. So Divergent comes from that space where the experience that was gained over the years in the different institutions provided a launching pad for the business. Of importance is the transition from employment into now the actual consultancy work, which happened post-COVID, because it meant that my previous employer had to scale down, and at some point, actually, they closed the office. Jobs were hard to come by.
Yes.
But I had already registered the business before even joining my previous employer. So what I did, I just activated the business.
Yes.
And started engaging and started the journey to where we are right now. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been comfortable. Just like any other entrepreneur, there's a lot of bootstrapping that goes into it.
Yes.
But the fundamentals of Divergent and what it does and where it is right now is born from passion. I have passion for research. I have passion for data. I have passion for insights. I have passion for informed decisions.
Yes.
Because what catalyzes any ecosystem, especially in the business world.
Yes.
Thank you.
So why the name Divergent? What does Divergent mean? What does it mean to your business, and what does it mean in the context of what you do?
Great. So Divergent, actually, this was a brand that really went through a process of brand building.
Yes.
My knowledge around brand building immersed me into that space, and I asked myself that what would be the best ideal name for this kind of nature of business, because you're in the information space.
Yes.
The business was registered as Emerge Research Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to actually go through a thorough audit or an evaluation of really what we are standing for. And Divergent was chosen out of around 36 different names that I used an external brand marketing organization to do that.
Yes.
And we went through the whole normal process of looking at the vision and mission of the business, the themes around the business. We looked at also what are the fundamentals, what are the levers that make the business work well, and in what space. So Divergent actually came out to me as a very strong brand from the context of research, and especially in data, provides the alternative conversation in any conversation, in any room.
Yes.
And it flips sometimes logic, sometimes it flips narratives, because it's more data driven as opposed to emotions. So Divergent now, the name itself, it's having divergent views, because most of the time when people are in a setup, people try to conform into perhaps leadership, into perhaps ideas. But then when you come in with data, you start challenging views, you start challenging opinions, you start challenging emotions.
Yes.
That's the context of Divergent. So it's the divergent way of looking at issues, and pretty much research is defined through that context.
Yes.
In a larger sense. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you registered the business while you were still in employment.
Yes.
How long did it take you to actually start trading, to actualize the vision that you had in your head? And why Why that gap? What was keeping you from jumping into the deep end?
I think it was a question of balance, because you have an employer that you need to give them your 8 to 5 hours, and then you have your consultancy that you need to run. And having registered it when I was still employed, that didn't mean that I wasn't doing gigs. So I would get small work here and there. They'll provide me with small data to analyze. They provide me with small markets to understand and all that. And for me, that became more of my transition mentally into the consultancy space.
Yes.
I wouldn't say there was a gap per se. However, the transition that actually now meant I had to get out of the comfort of employment happened during post-COVID.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it was a very painful process, because COVID came with a lot of dynamics. Clients scaled down their budgets, never prioritized on research, never prioritized on consultancy work.
Yes.
And it essentially meant that most of the consultancy work that was out there was hard to come by. So for almost like 2 years, I went without any project, right? I didn't touch any tangible financial, but we kept pushing our envelopes to a different ecosystem on what we do. I kept writing proposals. I kept responding to briefs. I kept responding to quotations. Eventually, something unlocked, and that's how we started the journey.
So the key insight over here is persistence.
Absolutely, and it really needs a lot of grit, a lot of wittiness, a lot of resilience, and also emotional balance, because bills have to be paid at the end of the day. Kids need to feed. Things, life doesn't stop because you're transitioning into entrepreneur.
So why should SMEs care about market research? Why should they care about behavioral research? Why should they care about what Divergent does?
Well, good question. Let me just paint you a very sad story about even Africa and a larger extent, how we consume research. If you look at the global, if you compare with the global consumers of research, Africa accounts only for 1%, meaning we don't invest in research. We don't put so much effort. If you look at the government budget for research and you look at how much Apple is putting out there for research, Apple is putting up a budget that is equivalent to a GDP of a country in Africa for just research, $1 billion investment. Why am I bringing this into context? Because SMEs have never been given an opportunity to appreciate the use of data and information to help them to work, to help them to function properly, to help them to optimize on whatever product and service they're offering. It's by default, because the market also doesn't feel that it's a necessity for small would-be purchasers of research. And I mean, it's research is not cheap anyway. It's expensive, to invest in someone to go and help you understand the market. The SMEs currently that are coming up right now, and especially new entrepreneurs, are very lucky, because they're coming into a world where there's so many tools that are out there that can help them to navigate through information asymmetry. They can navigate through data. They can easily click and find out information. AI models that are easy to come by. You can just ask a question and they can give you feedback. However, the interpretation context of that information to help an SME run a solid business is the missing link, and that's where we come in as Divergent. They're saying, fair enough, you've collected all this information. Our expertise and skills is designed for you to contextualize this, to help you to optimize on your business and help you run your business. So the human interface still is very critical and important. And that's why Divergent aware, when we say we are informed decisions, we truly are helping you to make informed decisions in the data that you've collected. The other thing is that SMEs leave a lot of data footprints, right? Without knowing that all these footprints make a story. But because the nature of their business is not their function, research is not their core function, though. So more often than not, they will not even put a lot of keen interest into it. So we come in and tell you, look, these are all the data points that you have actually been exposed to. Our job is to help you build a story around it. And a story essentially means that It can trigger conversion. It can trigger new product development. It can trigger innovation. It can trigger new markets. It can trigger emerging markets.
Yes.
It can actually open you into a whole world of possibilities that you were not privy to. Yeah. So Divergent comes into that space of SMEs whereby we are helping them to crystallize all this information. Also helping them to understand it's very important for them to look and invest into research, not in large scale, but bits by bits as you build the business. Yeah.
So, can you share an example where you helped an SME or any other business that you engaged with through research, be it on product, pricing, customer strategy?
Yeah.
How has Divergent practically helped? Give us an anecdote.
Yeah, interesting. So, there was this function or an event that I attended, and by luck, I was one of the panelists that was talking, and I was building. My story was around how do you utilize data for small media enterprises to help them to optimize on their profits. So after the talk, a friend who is a friend now randomly came and told me, look, I really like what you mentioned there because some of the things that you've mentioned are the problems that I encounter every day. So she's in the space of hubs for export.
Okay.
What are they called? The spices and hubs. For export.
Okay.
And she was like, I'm trying to really break into new markets with my hub because what I came to understand, hubs is an acquired taste from different markets, different origins. Yeah.
Yes.
And for you to break into a new market, there's quite a lot of things that perhaps you need to have at the back of your end or of your mind. So we sat down and we built a strategy around it. So we looked at what is the global consumption of what actually she was farming. She has a farm in Kitengela, right? So first of all, we mapped out her farm in terms of the different types of herbs that she's actually growing. Then we mapped those hubs into the different markets in terms of who are the key players. There's a lot of activity in China. We're doing large scale. So we looked then into how is the regulatory environment in that space. She had done a bit of, she has done a lot of compliance in some of this required certifications. Then we mapped out in terms of where would be the potential new markets for her. And here, markets that still haven't been explored, both in Africa and actually out of Africa. One thing that I came to understand is that most SMEs think the only markets available are in Asian markets or the Europe or Africa is a huge market. It's a huge market that is underexplored.
Yes.
So we usually try to bring them into the context before you even start thinking about the Europes of this world, because the regulatory environment of even exporting to those markets is too tedious.
Yes.
You need to comply to so many things that to you might feel more of an investment, right? Than putting back money into your business. So why can't you look into the African context where regulations are not that stringent, but still the market is available?
Yes.
So we mapped all that out. So as we speak right now, she's been able to go into 2 African markets with her spice.
Yes.
With her herbs, because she actually exports dry herbs. She does the packaging and dries and then sells. She has one European market, but that was out of linkage to the different ecosystems that I have that are in trade and especially supporting women in export business. Because also those ecosystems really come into play when you're advising our clientele. It's a leverage we have also as Divergent, whereby we are able to tell our clientele, by the way, there's this place that this problem can be solved. As opposed to you investing in research, you create linkages, so that there's a quick turnaround time to a problem.
So that would be the value add of Divergent.
That's the value add of Divergent.
The linkages that you can provide to SMEs.
Yes.
In terms of accessing markets. Excellent. So, as a practical tip,
yes,
what are some low cost and high leverage ways SMEs can sort of integrate feedback loops or mini research practices into their operations. Okay. If you were to advise them, say I came to you as a consultant and I don't want to buy an actual research from you, but I want you to sort of, because you do offer consultation and you train people in how they can integrate these practices into their own operations. What would be one tip that you give SMEs in terms of implementing some sort of research or some sort of feedback loop in how they're operating the business in whatever sector they're operating?
I think right now, and like I mentioned earlier, that the advantage the current entrepreneurs have is that there are quite a number of tools out here.
Yes.
So what we do an assessment of what are the favorable tools actually for the African context.
Yes.
So we sit down with an SME and we tell them, your feedback mechanism can be supported with this kind of a platform, whereby you integrate, everything, your operations, your bookkeeping, and especially if you are dealing with, especially in the FMCG space, where feedback is very critical.
Yes.
Because customers don't have the patience of when they have an issue, they need to be sorted that immediately. So what we do is that at any given time when you're investing into growing your market, grow also your feedback mechanism context, because that is a lifeline that is going to make you or break you. Most of the time you find that negative feedback has gone out, but by the time you're coming to deal with it, it's more you're reacting to a situation you can't manage or you can't control. It's out of your control.
Yes.
So damage control. So then you get into litigations and all those kind of things. So to avoid that, what do? You provide a proactive way of dealing with feedback.
Yes.
And that means that you've segmented your market. It means that you've identified the different sectors that your potential customers are coming from, and you monitor consistently what will be their needs. And being proactive is like you tease them with, are you interested? Will you be interested to have this? We have this kind of a thing that is coming up. Just information, keep them engaged.
Yes.
That way they feel that you are actually looking out for them.
Yes.
As opposed to them responding to, sending negative feedback to your platform, and then no one is able to check or you don't have the capacity to monitor whether it affects the business or not. So proactivity in this context helps in the feedback mechanism loop.
Yes.
And that is an integral part when you're building your system. If you're subscribing into online webmail platforms, look for those ones that are able to provide a feedback mechanism loop. Then invest either in a human resource to be able to check on that, or a data analytics framework that is able to pick that feedback and give you a report at any given time. Yeah.
So based on your experience, what are common consumer behaviors or mindsets that have surprised your clients when you've done a research for them, especially in African markets? So what sort of insights have been surprising that you've
there are many. The beauty of what we do, we cut across, we are sector agnostic. So different experiences with customers in different spaces.
Yes.
I think one experience that I can recall, I think I was in Senegal.
Yes.
And we were our clients wanted to understand listenership of a particular program.
Yes.
Around gender-based violence. It's a well-renowned media house. So I came to understand that there are different cultures out here that gender-based violence, it's not a big issue. It has been institutionalized in the culture.
Yes.
And it's acceptable.
Yes.
It's like an honor.
Yes.
It's like an honor to whoever is the victim. And the sorry bit of this, for me, the culture shock here is that women actually are growing, having embraced it. In fact, if it doesn't happen,
something is wrong.
It's traumatic. While here on this other side of the continent, we're like, man, you get any hint of gender-based violence.
Yes.
The laws actually on your case. The society is very well informed. the different players and stakeholders that are very well equipped to handle that. Yes. In other markets. So when we talked about, when we designed that framework to our clients, when we were doing our reporting, they were also shocked. And the reason why they were shocked is like they could not understand why the listenership of that particular program actually had dwindled. Because their context of programming was that if it's French-speaking countries, the same context, same content cuts across all Francophone countries. Yes. Forgetting that Africa is a multicultural and very dynamic and diverse. Yes. So they were like, okay, so these are the reasons, because what you're trying to advocate is actually a problem. When you tell them to stop gender violence, people look at it like, wait, what are you trying to say? It's normal. Or perhaps because of the patriarchal nature of those communities, here the husband would say, switch off that thing. Yes. So listenership goes down. So for me, that was a very stark reality of our world and how it's structured. So I don't create opinions when I get into new market. That's the beauty of research. You need to have an open mind. You go in there and learn. I'm not advocating for gender-based violence, but I'm saying there are communities out here that it is very well entrenched and it's acceptable, quote unquote. Yes, that is very interesting. What mistakes do you see SMEs make when they're trying to understand their users or their customers or their value chain? In essence, what mistakes do you see? What has popped out the most? What keeps recurring within the wider African context? Very interesting question. Most SMEs build products for themselves into small rooms and then they usually say, I know what's happening. Yeah. They go out there, spend huge amounts of, activations. Yes. And then the customer gives them a reality check. Yes. Okay. The biggest mistake SMEs get themselves into is I know my customer syndrome. Yes. What does that do? It actually blinds them from customer feedback. And here, I'm saying this from a context of the process of launching a new product, launching a new service, and understanding consumers. Yes. You start from a point of getting to know their emotions and needs, perceptions, and realities of what you're offering them. From that perspective, you go back and ask yourself, to what degree are we meeting these consumers halfway in their needs? Because you need them. Actually, the consumers have so many options. They don't need you. Yes. Right? Yes. But if you have a product and a service out here, you have to have an introspect internally and ask yourself, who am I building this product for? Yes. I'll give you a classical example, and I think you can relate to it with one of my past employer. They build a system, very many meetings in a boardroom, high-level meetings, management calls, the opinions are given. Yes. System developers, money spent, millions of money spent. Yes. And here, I just ask one question. Can this business use that platform? Yes. The business itself developing the product. The product. Can it use that platform? Yes. Because you're pushing it to an outside market. Yes. But you yourselves actually cannot use the platform. Yes. So what do you expect about a consumer that doesn't even have a clue? At least here, there's some level of knowledge around the product and the service. Yes. Because of interaction with it, feedback and all that. Can you imagine? So the most critical thing about any business under advice, especially for SMEs, and not to shy away or try to hide, is segment your market. Segment your customers. So there are two levels. There's the market segmentation and also the customer segmentation. Yes. That way you build leverage, even on your competitors. And this one is not, a segmentation shouldn't be a tedious process. It's just looking at who frequently buys from you, from where, and how much are they spending on you. Okay. Big organizations have been able to do that very well. That's why sometimes they bombard you with different types of products because the capacity. They study because they study your behavioral or other purchase patterns. Yes. And sometimes you ask yourself, hey, why are these guys sending me texts? Because you have frequently been purchasing from them, and they know your style of, or rather what kind of products you purchase and how much you spend.
Yes.
So at a lower level, at a small micro level with a business, just start noting down. And these are the data points that I was talking about earlier. I'm saying, do you have a way of documenting all these different customer profiles that are patronizing your business premise or patronizing your services?
Yes.
And that goes a long way in helping you to structure your offer, even products. It also helps you to innovate. Yeah, because by understanding your customer behavioral patterns, then you'll be able to understand what is the saturation level. Have they reached saturation? Or proactively ask them, do they need a new service? Do they need a new product? Is there a way they can, or if you feel like there's a way they can consume something that you have an idea, you can call them and ask them, what do you think about this? But you only do that when you've known these are your customers.
Yeah.
In research, when you're building a profile, and especially what we call when you're recruiting a potential would-be interviewer, we take the segmentation model. So we start by identifying gender, location, you're looking at occupation, you're looking at consumption patterns, you're looking at the last time they purchased a product or service. All that builds into a framework of our analysis. Yeah. And it's very important. Yes.
Okay. So based on what you've seen in your fieldwork and the data you've collected over the years, what sectors do you think hold untapped potential for SMEs? If I had some money, if I had $1 million right now and I wanted to enter business, what sectors do you think hold the most potential? Be able to get the highest return. For us to come to Divergent and say, hey, I have this money. I want to be an entrepreneur. Or I have my son and my daughter that want to double into business. Whatever the case is. Which sectors do you think has the most potential to earn you a good return? The current environment, current policies in place in Kenya and the Africa continent.
Yeah. I think the sector that for me will be a low-hanging fruit from an investment perspective. Agree, but play in the value addition space. My reasons, and this is my opinion, as the global market keeps shrinking in terms of putting so many stringent, compliance structures, right?
Yes.
It essentially means that the local market is also being starved. Or rather, the local market is an option to explore on value addition.
Yes.
And value addition in the agri space essentially means what? It means that look at how can we, feed our community with quality, because value addition is perceived to be more of a quality for external markets as opposed to local. But why can't we feed locals with quality products?
Yes.
Agri space, from horticulture to dairy to to fisheries, that's aquaculture. To all this, value addition provides a leverage. It's a starting point. However, caution is that the capital investment around value addition is always the barrier for entry.
Yes.
But if I'm building this from a context, if I have money and I want to invest,
yes,
I will do that. What does value addition add to the market? It stimulates producers. It's a catalyst to the producers.
Yes.
Because you remember that story of KFC and potatoes for Kinangop, where KFC was saying that we only import our potatoes from outside.
Yes.
And then the government
specific
yes. We have potatoes rotting in the farm.
Yes.
What level of specification are you looking for? We will comply. Yes.
Yes.
So, and the guys who have actually gotten into that space, what they do, they get potatoes from the farmers, they go and chip them nicely, they dice them into acceptable.
Yes.
For KFCs of this world, for outlets of this world.
Yes.
They're making a kill. So what have they done? They have given hope to the potato farmers that their whatever are never going to do to go to waste. I'll give you another example. Last week, but one, I was in this place called what? Kinale. Mm-hmm. Driving, we saw a farm full of cabbages.
Yes.
That are rotting on the farm. Cabbages.
Yes.
mature, but they are on the farm rotting. Then we asked, why can't these guys do even value addition? Like, oh, they usually feed the cow. Then another one said, even the cow sometimes gets tired. They don't eat the cabbage. And then it took me back to what KDF does.
Yes.
No, Kenya Defense Force.
Yes.
It has invested in dry food processing.
Yes.
It dries vegetables. You know?
Freeze drying, yes.
I think it's air drying.
Okay.
They do something like that.
Yes.
And if you've traveled through the Naivasha route, there is that place at the Lamea. They usually have stocked their products. So you'll find cabbage mixed with spinach, mixed with, kales. Yeah. But dried preservation. Yes. And by the way, if you go to cook, it actually comes out like real cabbage.
Yes.
So that incident took me back and like, this whole community, why can't they come up with a feed drying system? And sometimes initially when I was telling you, sometimes just governance fails as to optimize on the potential we have as business and entrepreneurs. Because the leadership there should be able to mobilize. If they know they have perennial fresh produce that some might not get to the market and they'll go post-harvest loss angle, invest in a drying facility, right? So that you prolong, you provide, you're able to make the farmers still meet their whatever, make money,
and stock for
the off-season. And the market is available. The one thing I usually tell entrepreneurs, the population is growing. Food is becoming scarce. Land is not growing. So at some point, a quarter of an acre, you'll have to figure out how do you maximize that space of land to still produce or value add. And value addition in the coming years is going to be at the center of what is going to drive our agri ecosystem. Yes. So that's why I will actually tell someone to provide my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from your perspective, what does the future of research in Africa look like to you?
Wow.
You're in Divergent for a reason. You formed this business for a reason. There's a lot of untapped potential that you see.
Yes.
And that's why you're here. That's why you've persevered. Yes.
You see, let me tell you, like I think I mentioned to you on at a global scale,
yes,
we are only consuming, Africa is only consuming 1% of the research out there. Or rather, we are doing 1% of what could be possibly done. And for whatever reasons, because we don't have governments that invest in research.
Yes.
And research actually across all sectors, in health, in financial systems, whatever financial ecosystem, in in social enterprise programs. So you'll find most of our research is donor funded. Yes. It's not funded by governments. The future is in a deliberate government policy that is going to push, even create a whole, it's called what, a ministry.
Yes.
To handle research and development. The likes of the US, the likes of Europe and Asia, right? They took that step way back. They realized for us to be competitive at a global scale and be innovative at the same time, you have to create a research ecosystem that anyone with the idea, right? Or frameworks that are able to allow ideas to be plugged in.
Yes.
Right? For scale, for example, or for adaptation, or for, inventing new ways of doing things. What you see right now currently is small pockets of ecosystems that they're running their own, what they're called GitHubs,
yes,
where guys are putting in ideas and all that. But there's no synchronized approach to it. So a lot of ideas go into the flares. There's no tracking of what can be scaled and all that.
Yes.
I'll give an example during COVID. You remember when COVID had just started, people became very innovative. The guys who were showing, they came with there's a contraption that was for gas. Is it what? Oxygen. Someone had tried to sell it to Toyota Kenya. There's a lot of things that were happening. For me, that was like, guys actually have a lot of ideas behind the scenes. but they don't have spaces and ecosystems to actually present that. If you look at what we have currently on those workshops and they're called what, conferences, where Juakali days or whatever.
Yes.
How many ideas are taken to the next level by the government?
Yes.
I know there's KIRDI, those Kenya Institute of Research Development, or whatever. I don't know what the acronym what means, but what I know is that they're supposed to be able to drive the agenda of research in this country. But how much are they given as a budget? Yeah, to work with institutions like Divergent.
Yes.
To work with institutions like education institutions, like universities and even TVETs.
Yes.
Right. Because that is the only way we are going to now realize the potential we have internally for new ideas and for new ways of doing things. Because now we'll be able to do research in what? In health space. I know Kemri has really done very well but then again, it's also external funding.
Yes.
It's not internally funded. Yes. So everything is over dependent on external funding. And I think the reality check now is that tap has been closed. What does it mean for our social enterprise programs? What does it mean to our innovative programs? And how much is the government willing to put in money into the whole research program in this country? Because that's what is going to drive us to the next level and to be competitive out here. Yeah.
So if you had no funding constraints, what's one research question or idea you'd want to pursue immediately?
If I have funding constraints, I had no
funding constraints.
I'll do this.
Want to pursue?
One thing that I will actually invest heavily. We have 47 counties.
Yes.
I will actually invest in research centers in each and every county. And these will work with key stakeholders like the county governments. The county government's pretty much for just, licensing and all those things. But what am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve a situation whereby it becomes like a baseline to understand or to map this country and understand where are the different ideas and what nature of ideas do we have at a local level.
Yes.
Because our problems are uniquely different. Our thinking and our innovative ideas are uniquely different. Set up all these centers for research development, heavily funded. With the best, available human resource capital and pretty much also infrastructure. Then the next level will be all that being integrated into one research environment or a research center where you have all these different ideas coming. One, you're going to actually provide an opportunity for showcasing skill, pretty much more of a larger bootcamp of some sort, and call the development world, call in the, external players, call in manufacturers, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, call in Kenya Private Sector Alliance to come and see what can be scaled. From a lobbying perspective, work with all these organizations to actually put a policy that is centered around investing in local research.
Yes.
And local research not only from a data perspective, but an innovative space. I will actually do a quadrant on the Kenyan map and borrow from the Asian way of doing things where you have different regions that are handling totally different business. So you'll have a commercial, a region that is focused on research around the financial ecosystem. Then you have another region that is focused on research around the ICT space. You have another region that is focused on doing what? On doing FMCG, new products and all that. Then have another in social development. These are levers and these are fundamental pillars that are going to create an innovative environment that might also shape policy in a larger extent of why it's important to have that. Yeah.
What about learning institutions?
Now, good question. The learning institutions is a treasure trove of a lot of data that is sitting and gathering dust. And I'll tell you why. How many people do you know, or rather, What is your estimate of the number of theses that have been written in this country cumulatively?
Hundreds of thousands, millions.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Every other time someone is doing a master's, a thesis has to be written.
Yes.
PhD, someone has to, unless it's published in the public domain. But what about those that have not been published? Okay. What happens? Bind, put in the resource center of a faculty in an institution.
Yes.
Stays there. Who makes references?
No citations.
Who goes there to pick that and read through and get an idea of the thought process? Pretty much that student just did that to tick a box because I need to do this. But picture this. If all that is actually digitized, okay, and you are looking at all institutions, private and public, right? Digitization of all theses that have ever been written. Do you know what you've built? You built an AI platform.
Yes.
For African research and even resource for African ideas and thought processes of people that some are dead, some actually exist, but they have an idea.
Yes.
Because what you just build with developers is an algorithm to pick on some certain themes across, and you run through that. What are you doing? You're ushering a new generation whereby they will not try to reinvent a wheel because the information that will be available will trigger them to actually scale. And that's how science has grown. That's how innovation has grown. Meaning the baseline, someone did the heavy lifting somewhere.
Yes.
Then someone came up and said, I can improve this. Then someone else said, I can make this better.
Yes.
Classical example of electronic vehicles. Someone pulled beat the bullet and say, you're going to run our cars with batteries. Look at the ecosystem of EV at a global scale right now. Even traditional players like Mercedes, BMW have put that into it. But someone actually did the heavy lift and said, I'm going to do electric. So it's the same thing. Someone needs to do heavy lifting and all these things. And trust me, I can bet you for free, there are amount of innovation that can come out of that whole process.
Yes.
The things that you never imagined is massive. And that's why I say, for me, I will invest in a repository resource research center that you have think tanks that are picking all these things into one thing that can move this country. An idea or a system or a process or whatever it is that can move, designed in our own context. Because actually all the theses that have been written are within the context of this country. They're not out of this country.
Yes.
It's a long stretch, but we dare to dream.
Good stuff. From your perspective, what is one underrated skill that every good researcher should have?
What?
Underrated skill.
Underrated skill.
Yeah. So if you're hiring researchers at Divergent, what is one skill that you're looking at? Or something that others don't look at in your space?
And this I'll tell you from where I was trained to do research. You have to be very curious. Curiosity is not taught, it's inborn. That's why not everybody can do research. It's not a skill you can develop. Not everyone can become a researcher, but very many people can actually be very inquisitive. Those are like talents that sometimes are inborn and we are not sure. It's like women charmers. When you sit in women charmers, you'll know all the secrets. Because I've run some focus groups with women charmers and I'm like, wait, okay.
Yes.
They pour, they say things, they unconsciously.
Yes.
But because you've trained your mind to inquisitively listen and decipher information.
Yes.
You pick a lot. Yeah. The other thing, apart from it being curiosity, is that you have to be very people-centered in your approach towards everything. The day I started doing research and I understood the fundamentals of research, I can remember I used to walk into a supermarket. Before I buy a product, can you guess what I used to do first?
You observe what people are buying.
I check the ingredients.
Okay.
Flip. Because I had done a lot of FMCG research.
Yes.
And I came to arrive at one logical, point where the first thing that you check on the ingredients, or the first thing that comes on the top of the ingredients, is what is the predominant product within that. So, for example, in most of the lotions, aqua is the first thing. It's water.
Yes.
It takes a lot there. Then you have all these chemicals. What also that has done is that it has helped me to avoid products that I know my skin will easily react without me knowing. But you see, me, I'm a researcher. I can go through that because I've been trained, I've gone through that. You can imagine someone who is not.
Yes.
So curiosity as a researcher is one thing that you'll have to inbreed yourself. You'll always want to, because research is about asking the why. Why is this happening? Why do people patronize one club and they don't patronize another club?
Yes.
Why do people drink one product, one beer, and they don't drink another beer?
Yes.
Why? Why do people do some certain things? So those are not trained. Those skills are not trained. Those skills are developed as you build your research journey, and from a passion perspective, not from an incentive perspective. If you're looking for money, don't go into research. It doesn't pay. It's the most, you usually say what is the most thankless job. Because you put in, if you do a correlation on how much time you spend to put in work, that'll be how much you are remunerated. Because it's not an 8 to 5 work.
Yes.
You always are on the prowl. You're always stocking brands. You're browsing on the internet on what clients are producing out here.
Yes.
What new services are being launched out here. You're always on a stocking mode. Yeah. And no one pays you for that, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite project and why?
Beer projects.
Beer.
With EABL way back. I learned a lot. I learned how consumers drink. I learned, because then when I used to drink, I learned how myself, how I graduated from brands to brands, from campus, and it was a pattern. Because now I was looking at my life from somebody else's perspective. I was like, oh, okay, I used to drink this, by the way.
Yes.
And the reasons why that was happening. Yeah.
Can you give us a tidbit?
And I came to know almost all clubs in Nairobi.
Yes.
Because you remember mentioning immersions, you are going into clubs and sitting with consumers of
the patrons,
the patrons, observing them how they're drinking, talking to them. Yeah, it was also one of the projects that I really got drunk because I kept on drinking. Because you have to buy a drink, buy another drink.
How did you retain all that information?
So, of course, I wasn't alone. So there was we were like in a pocket of 3 people.
Yes.
At any given time. So one will actually go talk to the bar manager, and that was a conversation around stocking and how do they decide on what brands how do they onboard new brands into the outlets. Then the other will actually be talking to the waiters, understand how do consumers order their beer. I came to understand that in Kenya, we are the only ones who actually drink, warm beer. Actually, because you see, I went to clubs where there were clubs that were patronized by foreigners.
Yes.
All of them were asking for chilled beer.
Yes.
But in Kenya, like, nipe, kaska warm. I learned that you can actually mix your beer with soda, to create something, and drink.
Shandy.
Yes, shandy, yeah.
Yes.
And that was in Malindi. When I was doing the research part of the sampling point. So why am I saying it was an interesting? Because it captured both consumer behavior on how they purchase behavior. There's the interconnectivity of decision to purchase, number one. Then brands to purchase, consumption patterns, and budget management. So one of the things that we used to ask consumers was, on their budget, monthly budget, how much is alcohol? How much is alcohol taking away from their budget?
Yes.
Most of the consumers I talked to could not actually give me a figure because it was pretty much more of a random drink up. It's Friday, here we can go have some. So when you tabulate for them how much they're spending at any given sitting on average, they were shocked. It's like, I spend a lot of money, And like, where do you spend this money to? I only drink this product. So the feedback to the client was like, the out of pockets from a consumer, they are willing to forego some certain things to buy your product. So what you need to do is really, you need to be very, very, very loyal, or rather, you need to provide an extreme value proposition for them to stick with you. Okay? Because there are other alternatives consumers have. It also happened, that's when I learned that apparently beer and airtime compete.
How so?
So by that time, those were many years way back. Yes. So telecoms were just coming into the market, and calling was the in thing. If you see someone with a phone, you're like, wow, this guy has made it in life. I mean, and that was just a Motorola. Yes. It wasn't a big phone or anything. But the fact that you can actually have a mobile phone, then having a mobile phone essentially means that you're going to call. Okay. By that time, I think calling a minute was around 15 bob. So you can imagine, if you call daily for 1 month, how much are you spending on calls only? And remember, at that time, some telcos were actually even charging you for receiving calls. Yes. You remember those days? Yes. So you do all that budget, you look at how much this customer is spending on calling, and then you look at how much they spend on beer. Then you do your balance of like, these guys are competing. So you look at alcohol consumption versus calling. There's a correlation. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting times those days, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. When research was very people-centered. Right now, AI has made it easy for guys to sit behind desks and do research. Yeah. Yeah. I think the data collection part is still key because it's still key. And especially for Africa, where we really don't have a lot of data. Because if you go to all these AI platforms and you trigger an African conversation, it flips you. Yes. These guys really don't have context what we are. It's a huge opportunity for us. Very massive. Yeah.
A book or a thinker that shaped your approach to evidence?
Wow. A book or a thinker that shaped my
approach to
evidence.
Yes.
Wow. It's a tough one. I know Malcolm. I'm a fan of Malcolm Gladwell. And the reason why I'm a fan, because it's pretty much of deep thinking. Not necessarily evidence, because I try not to read research-driven books. And I'll give my reasons, and this is me. The nature of analysis, especially for you to generate an insight, does not stem only from data. It stems from a very psychological nuance space. So your faculties are supposed to have been equipped by understanding of human psychology. And that way you can actually get indirectly from books that help you to think logically, rationally, and also irrationally. Okay. Right now I'm reading a book called Flip Thinking. Flip Thinking gives you a perspective of there's what you see vis-a-vis and there's what reality is. And I'll correlate this to how we interpret research insights. So a customer will tell you, I love this mug, right? That's on face value. Because you asked, okay, what do you think about this mug? I love this mug. But if you ladder down and start asking in depth in terms of why do they think they love this mug, they'll end up telling you something totally different. And they'll tell you, they'll actually give you reasons why perhaps they don't, what do you call it? They don't love the mug. And this is how it works. In research, it's like an iceberg. What the customer or what the respondent tells you is the tip of the iceberg, but there are underlying nuances down here that can only be projected by certain triggers. Yeah. So we use what we call projective techniques to unearth all those nuances. Okay. So as much as we want to use data to do what? To interpret for you, but you have to understand human psychology. Actually, there's what we call syncytium. Syncytium helps you to understand a human from a color perspective. I can tell you, there's a color, the different color codes that have been designed to help understand a consumer. Why do we do that? We do that because consumers are not rational human beings. They'll tell you one thing, meaning totally different things.
Yes.
So that's how you look at research. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, as for closing, One word that describes Divergent's role in Africa today.
Informed decisions.
Those are 2 words. Choose one.
The decision is silent.
Now, thank you, Silas, for your time. Look forward to
Yeah.
chatting soon again.
Thank you so much also for the opportunity to talk. I think it's insightful and the topics are interesting.
Very insightful.
Thank you.